Thursday, July 17th. Welcome back to Damon Bruce Plus. That is our good friend Sam Betesh of Thinking Out Loud with Siciliano and Sam, and it's always good to see you, brother. We do this on a Thursday. We get going live around 11 a.m. West Coast time, 2 o'clock East Coast time, co-streaming on both channels.
Yes.
Good to see you, brother.
It is so good to see you, Damon. And I can't even tell you what Thursdays have become. I told you TGI Thursday. Thank God it's Thursday is just the new thing in my life. And it is here because of you. And I'm so excited about what we have today because there's some legit Niners news. Those that watch the ESPYs, we do have thoughts on that as well, for sure. And I'm going to get just a hair of a Phillies take off my chest based on Kyle Schwarber. That just the tiny, you just got to give me 90 seconds on that at some point, and that's it. But
look at it this way: Schwarber went to Indiana. You can have it. He's a Hoosier. You're allowed to do that. I'm a big Schwarber guy. I'm glad he had such a good night this week. It was a good night for the All-Star game. I thought that. I didn't love everything, but I liked a lot more than I usually do, and we'll get into all of that. But we'll save it for the end of the show because if we started with that, no one would be watching. To get more people watching, all we're going to do is ask you to hit like and subscribe right now. Do it on both channels. It helps the live stream and the algorithm push us out to the good people. If you would, please, thank you so much. Hitting like and subscribe. And thank you so much to Ike's as always. Let me tell you, I don't know what you're doing for lunch today, but you'd be crazy if you didn't do it with Ike's, especially if an Ike's is around you. They're opening up a new spot in San Diego this month. It grows, baby. You can find an Ike's anywhere. And don't just think about like Ike's, a sandwich for you, or Ike's catering for your office. Do it for a pool party. Do it for that kids party that's coming up. Ike's catering is the way to go when it comes to satisfying an awful lot of tastes all at once. You can do it at Ike's.
Before you take that off the screen, before you take that beautiful image off the screen, I just want to say the flamingo floaty, me and another buddy of ours, Chris Morales, we at some point, we lived together and we had those floaties in the backyard. There's no pool in my backyard, as you know, Damon, you've been here, but we just had floaties in the backyard to celebrate really anything. We did it in the winter and in the summer, but Ike looks fantastic there.
Look at him.
The catering box is strong. That box, and again, those that haven't tried the Damon Bruce sandwich at Ike's,
get it done.
The reason I'm saying this is because we've all had, roast beef turkey sandwich. It's just, it's rare that you can say a sandwich is a combination of items you haven't tried in your life yet. And you did it, Damon. You guys got in a lab and came up with something that is just, no one has had that. You can't get that sandwich other places. I mean, you could, you'd have to explain what to do, but it's exciting when you get to, at this point in your life, taste something you've never tried or thought of before, and it's fucking delicious.
Let my experience being a fat boy work for you. I mean, let's put what I know to work for you. That's the gift that Ike's and I are giving you. So go ahead, check out the Dirty Sauce, check out Ike's Catering, and make sure you sign up for that Love Rewards program. Now, this is where I would also tell you we're brought to you by the Dubliner, and the little logo goes up there, but I am the Dubliner's logo today. I'm rocking the T-shirt. Dubliner, West Portal, get it done. Great Guinness, great bar. Everything you want in a proper bar is waiting for you at the Dubliner, West Portal. Say hi to Kenny. Say hi to John. They love hearing that the Plus sent you. I love them hearing that. They are going to be sponsors of the channel for the rest of the year through football season. And make sure you watch some Niners games at the Dubliner this year. I think the Valkyries are playing again soon. Warriors will be back at it before you know it. Second half baseball before you know it. Do it at the Dubliner, and we will hopefully see you there soon. But the good news, and Sammy, it's the news that every 49ers fan is talking about today, is when it comes to will I see you there, the answer is yes. For second-round pick Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins last night signed a 4-year, $10.3 million rookie deal with $9 million in guaranteed money, and that's what got the deal done. He is the big body that they're going to need to do something in the middle of this defense for that wide nine to really work. So it's good that this is done. I'm surprised it took so long, Sam, when you see that, it was a 4-year, $10 million deal with $9 million guaranteed. Like, that's NFL chump change. Like, that's tipping an Uber driver in the NFL. I'm really surprised that they had to go to the mattresses for that.
There's a lot of slotted in cash when it comes to the draft. And let's go back and remind people the names we want to talk about when we're looking at the draft. There's really 3 names that you can point to. that really solidify what happens to draft picks now and why it's different. Those names really are Sam Bradford and Jamarcus Russell. And the reason I'm saying that is Bradford, I believe, is the last number one draft pick to get not guaranteed, but to get a contract that was on par with other starting quarterbacks.
The last bonus baby,
yes,
if you will.
So you got bonus for being that top pick, and that money, it wasn't necessarily that Bradford didn't live up to it. It was more because Jamarcus Russell got that amount of money that people then said, okay, we can't be doing this. Bradford was the last. Bradford had a fine career. Shocking. Never went to a playoff game, by the way. Never, Bradford, which is weird. I mean, as a backup, yes, but never as a starter. So that money wasn't there after Bradford. So then they sort of slotted in based on where you were in certain rungs within the draft of where you are. So this Alfred Collins thing is really interesting. And as you said, confounding, because the money should sort of just line up with other guys around him. But I will say, and maybe we can thank Deshaun Watson for this, guaranteed.
We can thank Deshaun for something.
It's guaranteed money. Damon, obviously we all know that contract that Deshaun Watson received when he came back to the game, the Browns gave him this contract guaranteed. He was supposed to be, he's thought of at that time as a top 5, top 7 quarterback in the league. He gets that. The contract on its face didn't look that ridiculous until you read into it and realized, oh, wait a second, this is guaranteed money. So now the second round draft picks are all signing guaranteed money on their deals. And this holdup might have been in the fact that Alfred's deal is only 88% guaranteed and not 100% guaranteed. I don't know how in the world does an agent figure out that you've got leverage at this point in your career? I like you, I'm stunned that this was even a story that we have to now say, oh, it's done. Alfred Collins is done. Like that's what we were all waiting for.
It is a little weird. And look, precedent matters. If you want to know why you got off light in that courtroom, well, what was the precedent? Have you ever been in a courtroom before? Have you ever been arrested for this before? Are you a good citizen? Precedent matters. And that's what's going on here. CBS Sports explained it all in a paragraph. Early in May, the Texans gave their 34th pick, wide receiver Jaden Higgins, an unprecedented rookie deal by guaranteeing his full contract. Then the Browns followed suit by guaranteeing linebacker Carson Schweizinger, the number 33rd pick, his full contract as well. And then every single second round pick is then saying, well, then I want that. And so that's why only 2 second round picks had been signed before Alfred Collins became the third just last night. And there is now, expecting to be a domino effect here where you're going to see all these second round picks signing by next week. And it was because Collins took mostly all guaranteed dollars, which again now sets the precedent. You're not going to get the whole thing guaranteed, but how about 90% of it? Is that good? Does that feel right for you? And Collins says yes, and expect a whole bunch of second rounders and their agents to say yes to a very similar agreement that they'll be offered this week.
And more importantly, shouldn't we talk about what Collins is going to be on the field for this team? I mean, there should be a little excitement. I know that you were measured from Japan with the first round draft pick from the Niners because at the time it did feel there were other names. I mean, the mock draft season gets us all thinking that a team should do something else. And then, of course, none of that matters. Months later, it doesn't matter. If this kid's making an impact for you, you just no longer care about where he was drafted. Ask Brock Purdy, right? I mean, at this point, and Jawan Jennings, who we're going to get to as well. I mean, you're a 7th and a 6th round draft pick. If you're making an impact on the field where you were drafted is irrelevant other than it's a cool story for those that think they're fringe being drafted and not. You can always point to that story. But Collins, it's really, is Collins going to have an impact? Okay, he's signed. He's here. This isn't Ashton Genty with the Raiders. Like, is he going to be there? Is he not? We know he's the focal point of the entire offense. Collins is going to be a piece of this Niners defense. And I would say this much. I don't think Niner fans were necessarily, I can't wait to see Alfred Collins on the field. I don't think it was at that level. Yeah, we all want to see the first and second round draft picks, but not that kind of hype around Alfred Collins. This is, will he fit? Will he make an immediate impact? Will he understand the playbook quickly? And that's what it comes down to for defensive players. They're either understanding the scheme early on or they're not. And that's going to determine whether he's making tackles on special teams or whether he's making real tackles at the goal line or on third downs week in and week out.
I think he's going to play a big role in this year. He is the bulky sized D tackle that they need for this defense to work. Robert Saleh, coach him up. He and CJ West are your new interior terrorizers. So hopefully they start terrorizing the NFL quickly, and how quickly these, young defensive linemen figure it out is going to walk hand in hand with what kind of start did the 49ers get off to this year. The last bit of business that they have to do, everyone's been wanting that smooth offseason, all things considered. This has been a very smooth offseason. Don't let this Alfred Collins thing, deter you too much from saying that this has been pretty smooth. Juwan Jennings is the last piece now. And to call what he's requested a trade demand, I think it's just the wrong way to frame this, and that's the way it's a little bit been framed since Jump Street. All Juwan Jennings wants is to make sure if some catastrophic injury happens to him this year, he has, no net to fall into. That's all he wants, and the 49ers should want to give him that, Sam. The 49ers should want to protect him. The 49ers should want to thank him for the job that he's done, for the role that is beyond the role I think they thought he was going to play. Circumstances dictate things, and circumstances have elevated Juwan up the depth chart as much as his own talent. So watch this done, I would think, by the weekend, and everybody in training camp next week.
Let's do what most people around the league do, which is credit Howie Roseman when he's not even necessarily doing anything, but he does get credit because a lot of what he does has turned out right. This is called a sweetener.
Can you vamp for a while real quick?
Absolutely.
Full screen here. I'll be right back.
So what happens is, Howie Roseman, there was a sweetener in the deal for Saquon Barkley. All right. It kind of happened under the radar. No one knew that Saquon Barkley was looking for more money necessarily. And all of a sudden it comes out, the Eagles gave him a new contract based on what? Based on the fact that he's the offensive player of the year, based on the fact that he just ran for 2,000 yards, based on the fact that he ran for the most yards ever in the history of the game when you consider regular season and postseason combined. So they gave him more money because he played to that level and he deserved that money. And they did it without it ever hitting the headlines that Saquon Barkley wanted more money. He simply got it. Juwan Jennings is in that conversation, not Saquon Barkley. I understand he's not up for offensive player of the year, but when you look at within the 49ers offense in a season when, okay, maybe we're not that excited about what the 49ers offense did, but there are positives. And we look at positives from the 2024 season. It starts with Juwan Jennings, what you got there. Yeah, maybe what you think you have in Garendo now is also nice, but it's really Jennings. Go back to the first game against the Rams. Debo's out of that game, and it was a chance for Purdy and Jennings to prove that they could do something without other pieces around them. Juwan Jennings went Jerry Rice, Terrell Owens, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was spectacular that day in that X slot position. And guess what? He did that again when Ayuk was out also. Jennings, if you go to PFF, and Damon, I'm glad you're back to hear this. Juwan Jennings last season, and I'm going to remind people, PFF is as analytical as you can get when it comes to football. PFF does an amazing job of breaking down the impact a player truly has within his team and in comparison to others at his position specifically throughout the league. Juwan Jennings for 2024 came in as the 13th ranked wide receiver, not the 13th ranked wide receiver 2, the 13th ranked wide receiver in all of football, according to PFF, for what he did on the field in 2024. That's worth more money because he was not being paid as a guy. His agent didn't show up in 2023 and say, all right, this is a top 15 receiver. They didn't know that. And it changes. And part of me wants to say, play your contract, shut the hell up. None of us are making that kind of money. You get paid what you get paid. And sometimes you're doing more work and sometimes you're doing less work. And right now he was doing more work in a season that saw Debo going down in games and Ayuk obviously going down for the majority of the season. But the other part of me says Jennings, as I predicted here, is going to be a massive impact player in this league. Juwan Jennings, and it comes down to fantasy football. I hate to say it, but people are going to take flyers on Juwan Jennings this year, and he is going to show up and win fantasy championships for people because he's going to have that. Because he's going to have that kind of the role in the offense, Damon. That's it. It's just the simple fact. It's either Pearsall or Jennings, and right now I'm thinking more on Jennings. And if you're taking Debo Samuel out of this offense, considering what Purdy and Jennings have and have proven again and again, Jennings. I'm not saying Jennings is going to be drafted by fantasy draft in the first round. People are going to draft Jennings later. Again, taking a flyer, right? He's not on anyone's radar as the receiver they have to have, but people are going to have him on a roster. And all of a sudden, he's going to be a guy that every week, boom, you need Jennings in there. And he is going to make a huge difference for people that way. And of course, for the Niners.
Jennings is going to be a volume receiver in terms of who else do they have to really throw the ball to. So he is going to get the opportunities. He doesn't have a robust group of teammates that he needs to beat out just to get those opportunities. They're going to come to him. I like Jennings as a player, but also it is a spread the ball around level of offense to where, 70 catches, 800 yards, 4 touchdowns is probably what it's going to be-ish for Jauan Jennings. So I don't know if he's and you won your fantasy league because of Jauan Jennings, but boy, he's important to the 49ers. Forget fantasy football, real football. He is very valuable to the 49ers. It'll be something I really believe is done before training camp and veterans get going next week. Another bathroom break, writes the postman in Capitol. Let me tell you, the real gift of getting older is the whole Joe Theismann peeing commercials that you've seen. But today was not that. Yesterday, earlier this week, I did have to take a leak in the middle of the show.
Okay.
Today was had to sign for it UPS delivery.
Oh, okay.
By 11. You probably didn't hear the door ring, but I did, and I had to go up there and sign it because Jillian's got like a big work item coming to her that needed signing for, and so I
get that.
Look, I play secretary. When I'm not playing trophy husband, I play secretary.
Is it a better break than the corgi break we got last week? I don't know. I mean, that's up right. I mean, look, corgi break's important. We get Levi breaks at times. I mean, these things happen, and the urine break is also very important. And that's it. Damon and I are not wearing diapers. We could consider it, but yeah, I think it's important.
It makes me relatable. Everybody's got to pee. Everybody,
If you haven't listened to the poo poo song, we could make it the pee pee song, and it does. Everybody has to go pee pee. It's very true, Damon. It's what we do here as fathers, and of course, becoming a father means we're older, and that's what we got to do. But Damon, I like Jauan Jennings because I like when players are above their head. If you were just to ask anyone on the street, do you want an overrated player or an underrated player? Obviously, a player who is rated, either drafted or by his team, not seen as somebody, and then breaks out as somebody you can count on. That matters. And Purdy and Jennings are cut from the same cloth in that way. Neither were supposed to be significant pieces of this offense. Those are guys you're taking a flyer on late in the draft. And here they are now as significant pieces of Shanahan's offense. I like the story of them doing it together. And frankly, I like Debo more than you like Debo. I thought Debo was that nickname. I thought he was the bully of the offense. Not quite Draymond Green level, but just I thought he identified the ferocity of that offense. And without him, I think you lose a little of that. He is expendable, period, because of Jauan Jennings, what he did in 2024. What Jauan Jennings did in games without Ayuk and without Debo is why Debo's not here. It is that confidence that allows you to make that trade.
All systems go. I mean, ready, set, go. Here we are. Football officially begins next week when training camp opens. I know I'm going to be down there. I think we'll be back tomorrow with a wake up. Yours truly and Kruger will be going at it. And then next week, we'll be filing from Santa Clara, and it's officially underway. I saw some over-unders, Sammy, that I thought were kind of interesting because
spicy.
I really think that the entirety of the 49ers season can be wrapped up in the same answer to the simple question, did Christian McCaffrey have a good year? If Christian McCaffrey has a really good year, I think the 49ers are right back in the playoffs. If Christian McCaffrey doesn't have a good year, is hurt again, something goes wrong, well, then good luck with everything. That's how important he really is. His over-under props are coming in, and basically the question is, in Las Vegas, do you think Christian McCaffrey's about to have 1,000 rushing yards? His over-under is 999.5 rushing yards. I'd take the over there on McCaffrey. I'll take the over. Not much over that, but I would take the over on McCaffrey. 7.5 rushing touchdowns. That over better hit of all of these props. That's got to hit the over for the 49ers to do something. 60.5 receptions, 500.5 receiving yards. What do you think about those guesstimates for McCaffrey's season?
Okay, the only one I like, and here's why. When I'm making a bet, I like as many things to be potentially hitting for me that are in my favor. So by that, what I mean is when you're taking rushing yards, McCaffrey could still have a spectacular season and you would lose your bet because he ends up with more receiving yards than you expected. So the totality of it, right? In other words, you need him to get to 1,000 yards rushing. He ends up with a 1,500 yard combined season and only 900 were rushing. And now you lose your bet. So I hate that when you technically sort of win because you're basically saying this player is going to be healthy. This player is going to be a special part of the offense. He is, and yet you lose your bet. I don't like that. I'm not hedging my bet. I would just rather touchdowns is what I like. If he's a significant part of this offense, touching the ball and getting in the end zone, which like you said, healthy, he does that. I like that much better. I don't like getting in the weeds on specifics there between the rushing or the receiving. I like either combined yards, Christian McCaffrey. So scrimmage yards I would take on an over-under, and I would take touchdowns. I like that a lot because what we don't know is what if they fall in love with Garendo, right? What if there's just a big part of Garendo eating up yardage in this attempt to keep right?
They better fall in love with Garendo. They better fall a little out of love with Christian McCaffrey when it's not a high leverage play in a game that's going to decide whether or not you win or lose. Less Christian McCaffrey is more Christian McCaffrey in the postseason. And that's the way the 49ers need to play this. And Kyle Shanahan needs to be broken of his CMC addiction.
And he probably will be. There's no greater wake-up call, none, than not having that player. So not only do you have to get creative and now discover what you have in others, and we understand Mason is gone, and obviously this falls on Garendo. And look, knowing Kyle Shanahan, Damon, there's a running back that you and I are not speaking about right now that will all of a sudden be on a waiver wire for fantasy football players in week 10 because Shanahan always likes to find another guy who can eat up yards and comes in and plays a role, right? There's going to be that. There's Garendo won't be available 1 week. This will be sort of the handcuff to CMC. Will be some other guy. Shanahan does a great job of discovering backs here and there that he can make a part of the mix, a part of the running back room.
On Monday, Haywood Jablomi shows up and runs for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Exactly. And essentially Garendo was that guy last year, right? I mean, that's and now here he is the guy that you might be leaning on. Should you take your time with McCaffrey or should, God forbid, something happens with McCaffrey? So if you're in love with Garendo for yardage, right, all of a sudden, that's why the prop to me, I'd look at scrimmage. I just think it's a better, you've got some, now you can root for McCaffrey in all scenarios. That's all. I like when I have a ticket, I like rooting for that guy, right? And it's like, now I'm going to be pissed. He's catching the ball and running for 50 yards on a screen and I'm pissed. I mean, I'd rather be rooting for that.
That's why I don't like taking the unders on game totals because now you're just rooting for a shitty game and no offense. And that's not fun. Sometimes you got to make the play that you believe in, but that's my least favorite play to make. By the way, just for you, Sammy, our resident Eagles fan.
Yes.
Would you like the Saquon Barkley props?
In a comparison to McCaffrey, yes, because we've talked so much about them in the same sentence based on age and where they are now in their careers and what could happen for this season. Give me what Saquon's looking at.
I'm going to be fading a lot of these, by the way, because it's tough to be great 2 years in a row. It's tough to produce like that 2 years in a row.
And the history of 2000 is not good. Go back and look at the season after 2000.
How'd you do after you went over 2000? The answer in the next year is didn't even come close to 2000.
Yep.
The over-under on rushing yards for Saquon Barkley is scary. 1,450 and a half, 1,450 and a half yards. I would hit the under on that for Saquon. I would think that Saquon's PCLs, MCLs, and ACLs would like to see the under come in on that as well. 10 and a half touchdowns, 40 and a half receptions, 300 and a half receiving yards. I actually like the receiving yard prop more than anything else because Barkley's going to go over 300 and a half receiving yards, I would think. 40 and a half catches, I would feel a lot better dabbling with either of those than the yardage or the touchdown total. Like you and I were talking about, Jalen Hurts is your touchdown vulture.
Exactly. So much like I said about McCaffrey, you don't want to be rooting now against something. And now you're going to be rooting again, now that when the team is in the red zone, really in the 5 and closer, you're now going to be nitpicking things, which I hate doing. And remember this, with Saquon, it's really actually just a smarter bet to go under on touchdowns because of everything Saquon did in this incredible record-setting season from 2024, touchdowns were stolen by Jalen Hurts, period. If they're at the 1.5 yard line or closer, where most teams are giving it to their featured back. This is Jalen Hurts pushing into the end zone. That rule lives to see another season. I can't imagine why would you know the way Sirianni is. Sirianni's going to love to prove it to the league. Here it's back and we're still just as dominant. You know they're going to be running that play the same way they were. And why wouldn't they? It works. That play works 90% of the time. You're going to run that play. And when they've gotten cute with it in the past, it really hasn't been great. It really hasn't. They actually, A.J. Brown dropped a great one they ran on a 4th down where they shot it out to him. But other than that, they like to just give it to Jalen and let him push. So the touchdowns is a tough one with Saquon. And I think 1,400 is a great number. And the reason it's that high, of course, is people are going to look at the number from this season and say, okay, even if he rushes for 500 yards less, he's still going to hit that. But I think you're right. It should be less than that.
Yeah, that's an awful big ask 2 years in a row for any back. And I also think Sirianni's smart and he's going to spread it around. And you can't ask Saquon Barkley to wear the Superman's cape 2 years in a row. You just cannot. It's a good way to make sure that by the time next year rolls around, he is basically a pounded ball of clay with nothing left to offer anybody.
No, the Eagles proved something, which was there was at least a little bit of an argument at the end of the season, week 18, should Saquon, right? Saquon at that point was 100 yards from breaking the O.J. Simpson record. And instead, the team just decided, you know what, we're not going for it. We could, and we're not. They decided to sit him. And what? There was really at that point, you could argue, well, this season has to end in one of two things. If you're not going for a record like that and you're that close, then the season has to end with a Super Bowl championship, because then the argument becomes, well, was it all worth it? Well, obviously, ask any Eagles fan, was it all worth it? It was. Absolutely. And of course, the extra carrot was Saquon is in the history books because if you combine regular season and postseason, he ran for the most yards in the history of the game. So they did it all.
Him in there somehow, some way by making up a category just for him. Son of a bitch. Anyways, it is great to have you here, everyone. Hit like and subscribe no matter who you're putting your over-unders on. Bet on both the Plus and Thinking Out Loud to have you ready for good content all football season long. By the way, speaking of content, 49ers fan says, the last few times I've watched a DB video, when the Acorn ads come on, it completely freezes the video.
Wow.
I've seen that too. On my phone right over here, wow. I have our video up just to make sure it's all going right. And, you know, it's all, and there are certain pop-up ads that the video does not come back after the pop-up ad is over. YouTube, get your shit together. Come on. Let's go, YouTube. Get it together. But yeah, I've noticed that too. 49er fan. We got the Teach and Morgan Hill saying me too. Yeah.
Right. Watch out for acorns. Watch out for acorns. And Postman says it as well.
There you go. Postman. He's all over it.
I gotta say.
Oh, wait, hold on. That's not Postman. Here you go, Postman.
Oh,
there you go, Postman. Yeah, I don't know. YouTube is sucked all week. Rough week on the tube, I guess. But yeah, sorry that's happening. Just shut it down and open it back up. Thank you so much. I'm sorry it's inconvenient. We never want to inconvenience you.
No.
At all. It is that dead time of the year, the slowest sports week, the slowest 2 days of the sports year were yesterday and today. No baseball, no basketball, except for maybe summer league, which is really wound down in a lot of places. So there are 2 days where you're just like thumb twiddling and people are coming up with, all right, well, how do we get somebody to click on this or click on that and blah, blah, blah. Well, everyone loves a fucking list. So here we go. Are you ready, Sammy? Here is the list we will deal with today. We'll keep it 49ers, then we'll work broader throughout the NFL. But the question was asked, who is the best 49er team since 2000, over the last 25 years, without obviously a Super Bowl title? Who is the best 49ers team?
I want to explain one other part of this quickly.
Okay.
So Bill Barnwell at ESPN, he actually ranked the top 25 teams overall in the NFL since 2000. And then, of course, once you and I saw that, this got us deep down a Niners rabbit hole. But please explain where this goes, because Niner fans are not going to want to hear this name that's about to come out of your mouth, because the player this season is most remembered for is known well in Chicago also. But yeah, it's not. It's this season ended. I would argue this was the most disappointing.
Well, there's not a lot of teams, right? There's not a lot of teams on this list that didn't win a Super Bowl.
Right.
And this is
right.
one.
And by the way, yeah, didn't even play in the Super Bowl. So this is an interesting
the 2011 49ers, the Kyle Williams fumble.
That name.
That team, that was a 13-3 football team that probably could have, should have, would have if they did it, but Kyle fucking Williams fumbles. And, the very next year, the 2012 team reaches the Super Bowl, but loses to the Ravens, right? So
different quarterback.
And this is where you wanted to have a soliloquy about Colin Kaepernick. So you go right ahead. And then I'll tell you why you're probably wrong about that.
Okay, so for any of these teams, look at the entire list, and there's an honorable mention on this. It's a great job by Barnwell. If you haven't, just type in top 25 NFL teams and take a look. It's a fascinating trip down memory lane. Okay, but for any of these teams, most of the teams on this list, you could almost ask who's been our best quarterback over the course of the 25 years, right? And for the Niners, it is, because the Niners have had spectacular, I will say it, spectacular teams with Alex Smith. They've had spectacular teams with Colin Kaepernick. They've had spectacular teams with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they've had spectacular teams with Brock Purdy. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
I don't think I'm missing anybody there. Apologies to CJ Beathard, right? Yeah. I mean, I just think
sorry, Nick Mullins, you didn't make the list, but otherwise you were right. Yes.
Okay. So that's it. And those were teams that you could have said at any point in the season, yeah, that team could win the Super Bowl. Any one of those, because also defensively, every team I just mentioned, even though I'm talking quarterback, those teams I just mentioned defensively were also special, different, unique, and serious contenders. The 2011 team, as good as it was, and as much as the Kyle Williams thing, and I had forgotten Kyle Williams muffed 2 punts in that game. I forgot that.
Yes,
he muffed in, because I remember in overtime, I had forgotten that in the fourth quarter he muffed one as well, which is just reprehensible. And obviously Kenny Williams in Chicago got a lot of flack for that as well, because that's his son.
They went after the dad.
They did. They really did. But as awful as that, and that ending was just brutal. I also want to remind people that in 2011, as much as you want to blame Kyle Williams, I'm not going to blame Alex Smith necessarily, but the offense, did the Niners have 4 possessions in that overtime? If you go back, Damon, I swear it was an ugly. Eli Manning had possessions. Alex Smith had possessions, multiple possessions. And this is with the old overtime rules. All you have to do is kick a field goal, and neither team, I'm telling you right now, it was a brutal overtime. It was awful. And neither team could move the ball and do anything in overtime. And I remember, because I was rooting hard for the Niners in that game. Obviously, an Eagles fan, didn't want to see the Giants go into the NFC Championship there. That was awful, but it happened. So that is your Alex Smith team of note. I will say this. Watching the Niners, the most fluid the Niners ever looked is with Colin Kaepernick as their quarterback. The most confident, if you go back as a Niner fan and ask yourself, the most confident you were in an offense watching the Niners play game in and game out were the height of Colin Kaepernick's career on the field. We don't have to talk about off the field. On the field, Colin Kaepernick, those teams, what he could do.
It was before the league had made the adjustment to him and learn he is a one-read quarterback who is going to just take off the minute he's uncomfortable. For a minute there, though, a one-read quarterback who could run like the wind gave the 49ers a wrinkle that they never quite had like that before. And for a 12-game run
over 2 seasons,
Kaepernick was pretty special there,
including eliminating the Packers twice in record-setting games, in performances against the Packers, record-setting quarterback performances, back-to-back seasons against the Packers. Kaepernick was the answer to Aaron Rodgers. He was the thorn in the side of those Packers teams. Kaepernick in that Super Bowl run. So I'm just going to say, click the clock 1 year forward. The 2011 team was very good, and I like what Barnwell said to explain it. But it is clear and obvious to me that the 2012 team, when the lights go out in the Super Bowl, to come back in that game, again, you're talking about to the combination of Jim Harbaugh and Colin Kaepernick, I just thought was as good and as confident as this team ever was. And to be, what were they, on the 4-yard line there with 4 chances to take the lead? First down, it was a run with the Michael James. And then it went Kaepernick, Crabtree, incomplete, corner of the end zone. Kaepernick, Crabtree, corner of the end zone, incomplete. 4th down, Kaepernick, Crabtree, corner of the end zone, incomplete. and that's as close as they got in a game
Gore
where they
didn't touch
stormed
the
back.
ball. Frank Gore didn't touch the ball with the Super Bowl on the line and goal to go. Oh, it should still keep Jim Harbaugh up at night. That should haunt him to his dying day.
And think about and remember this, Damon. Not only obviously which a Super Bowl loss would stay with you forever. Thanksgiving dinner, his brother beat him in that game. I mean, he's up against his brother in the Super Bowl in a game that looks over when Jacoby Jones takes the second half kickoff all the way back. Then the lights go out. They come back. Kaepernick was excellent in that game, and Crabtree was very good in that game, but they could not get him the ball when it mattered most. And that was Flacco obviously making all of his money and betting on himself, and it worked out great for him. But that's the team. I'm just going to say I want to circle that team. Forget about Garoppolo being up against Mahomes.
Okay.
And I hope you take Purdy now. I imagine you will, but I'm just going to say,
I'm going with the team that lost the Super Bowl to the Ravens, or excuse me, to the Chiefs the second time. Look, that was Christian McCaffrey at the absolute height of his powers. That was, a very good defense. That was the most Pro Bowlers in all of football on one team at a time. You still had Kyle Shanahan in the people still believe he can get it done phase of his, hoping that he will get it done. Like, I think it was last Super Bowl, the 2023 team that didn't win that Super Bowl was the best of the 49ers team since 2000 in my mind. But look, the one team that I think would give him the biggest problem would be the 2011-2012 49ers, which, were banging heads and heads with the Seattle Seahawks for all those years where, Harbaugh and Pete Carroll had the best rivalry in really the entire NFL. Now, another list that is out there for you to click on today are the NFL best coach, worst coach list that's out there right now. Without even clicking on it, I came up with my answers for this list, and what do you know? That. They exactly corresponded with what the list said, because basically what we're talking about is who has done it that you believe in and who has yet to prove themselves. That's what we're really talking about here. To me, the best coach in football remains Andy Reid.
Yes.
It's still Andy Reid. I know that the Chiefs didn't win last year's Super Bowl. The correct answer is Andy Reid right now. I really believe that. I'll say that Nick Sirianni deserves a spot in this conversation. He's certainly the new guy in the conversation. But for one Super Bowl win, I don't even know if he's in the conversation, but that's the gravity that Super Bowls pull. So he's in the conversation. I think that Kyle Shanahan, it's easy to roll your eyes when you hear his name now, but he's the old guy who still hasn't won it all, but he is a state-of-the-art coach in this league. I really believe it. I think John Harbaugh is criminally underrated year after year. We talk about Mike Tomlin being underrated. Dude, Harbaugh is more underrated. And for some reason, even though he beat his brother, he lives in his brother's shadow because Jim is such a spectacular asshole. And Harbaugh's easy to ignore, John Harbaugh, when he's standing right in front of you. And Jim Harbaugh is impossible to ignore when he's standing right in front of you. And then, so those are my best in the league with Sean McVay, Dan Campbell, and Pete Carroll. Let's see what he does. I'm telling you, Pete Carroll is the real freaking deal. So I still got him on the list, and the worst are all the haven't shown it to us yet. Your Brian Schottenheimers in Dallas and your Kellen Moore in New Orleans. He hasn't shown us anything yet. I'll even say, with all the excitement that's in Chicago around Ben Johnson right now, Ben Johnson hasn't done shit as an NFL head coach and should not be on any list other than the we don't know yet list. So I got him among the worst head coaches because he's unproven. Liam Cohn of the Jaguars. We don't know you yet. Sorry, buddy. You were Mike McDaniel, but you look like you do slightly less cocaine than Mike down in Miami.
And by the way, a really rough story. Liam Cohen, if you go back and do yourself a favor, Google Liam Cohen gets job with Jags. The history of what happened there in Tampa. Liam Cohen was trying to get a raise with Tampa at the same time he was negotiating with Jacksonville. It rubbed everyone in Tampa the wrong way. It was really, it's an exercise in burning a bridge. If you want to go back and read what Liam Cohen did. So he'll have a lot to prove, and it's nice. He'll get to play Tampa as well. So that'll be an interesting one. But this list is fun because it also reminds you, just a great reminder of coaches that you didn't even realize have head coaching jobs heading into this season. I mean, Kellen Moore's winning the Super Bowl with the Eagles as the offensive coordinator. Okay, he's with the Saints now. For those that wanted McCarthy out in Dallas, all right, well, who is it? Oh, it's Schottenheimer's son that's now coaching the Cowboys. That's interesting. It's great to go back and look at that. The coach that's getting the most heat this offseason, if you want to Google something else, Google Dolphins culture. That's a coach that's taking heat right now. Dolphins, Mike McDaniel right now is getting major heat because apparently the players that are coming out of Miami and going other places are telling stories about the fact that Miami does not run things the right way. So Mike McDaniel, who used to be a darling, he was in the McVay and Shanahan conversation, is now, a year after freezing his ass off in the playoffs and losing, and that was sort of the last sniff we got at the Dolphins really contending. It's beginning that's beginning to turn. That milk is beginning to sour in Miami potentially. So I know people are not high on him, but I want you to share the screen right now, Damon, because this is the Coach of the Year odds, and I just find this so amazing. First of all, you just went on a brilliant rip about Ben Johnson. Hasn't done anything yet, right? Correct. He is leading the list of Coach of the Year. I believe that's plus 650. Still good money. I mean, a favorite amongst a list, but still when you're choosing against the field, it wouldn't be bad money to throw it at somebody here. But to your point, Jim Harbaugh's on there as third. I'm going to click through here. You said Andy Reid, Sirianni, John Harbaugh were the names you talked about as the coaches that we believe in most, right? And I'm not going to split hairs and argue with that. I think you're right on. If you ask any fan of this league, if their team lost their head coach tomorrow, who would they want? They're all going to say Andy Reid. I think if you ask any fan legitimately, if your coach was gone, who would you want? They're going to say Andy Reid without question. I will click. This is the beginning of the list. Ben Johnson, Vrabel, Jim Harbaugh, Liam Cohen, Aaron Glenn, Dave Canales, Pete Carroll, who you mentioned, and Sean Payton. That's who you can put money on. Those are the favorites in Vegas. I'm going to click through to the end. This is hilarious. This is what Vegas thinks of the conversation we just had. Here we are now going to the last page, all right? These are all tied for last. The odds are plus 5,000. Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni, and Sean McDermott are plus 5,000.
Well, I'll tell you why, though. This is all about perception and how we go about choosing coaches of the year. When you're assumed to have a juggernaut of a team, you're not going to get coach of the year consideration unless you're 16-1 or 17-0.
And I would argue 17-0 really is what it would have to be. And I think Andy Reid wins it at 17-0 if he can do it, and they very well could. They damn near could have last year. But Andy Reid, I would say if you have $50 that is just burning a hole in your pocket, why not throw it at Andy Reid, Coach of the Year? Because a lot of people, I think this is the chance, because Damon, it's a regular season award, but don't you think people will have a little bit of, oh, Andy did it again, or Andy bounced back? The way the last taste in our mouth of the Chiefs is obviously them getting smashed by the Eagles. I think you could get voters this season saying, wow, Andy did it again. Andy sort of proved us wrong. We're all ready to say that someone else is going to take that division from them, or someone else is going to take over the power in the AFC. If they lead the AFC again in the regular season, I could see Andy getting a sniff.
Sammy, I'm going to have you take people through the list a little bit, because now I do have to take a leak. I'm sorry to do this.
Look, this is all right.
Freaking the damn prostate is killing me. I'll be right back.
It's all right. Damon, I am going to go through the list because of another guy you talked about. So here we go. Look at this. So now Damon mentioned also John Harbaugh. Look at John Harbaugh at plus 4,000. This is the kind of disrespect these coaches get, and I don't understand it. I would love to put money on a proven commodity like Andy Reid or John Harbaugh. Now, again, Harbaugh would have to get the 1 seed, but again, that's something the Ravens don't do every season. So that is an interesting one. Remember that if the Ravens end up with the 1 seed, John Harbaugh for the regular season could be considered Coach of the Year. And again, throw $50 at Andy Reid. You don't want to throw $100 at it? That's fine. You throw $50 at Andy Reid, that's a $2,500 winning ticket. Imagine the confidence all season of knowing the Chiefs are in first place, and you've got an Andy Reid Coach of the Year ticket. That's the way to go through it. I'm with Damon. I think the best coaches in this league are exactly as he said it. Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni, and John Harbaugh. I will say on this list, if you're looking at the first, and I'm going to give Gino Bisconte, I also am on a podcast with Gino Bisconte. He is a great tout that has been making money on football bets over the last 2 decades. And Gino looked at this list, and sure, he might be a Chargers fan, but He puts his money where his mouth is. He loves Jim Harbaugh here as coach of the year. The difference is, much like I said about Andy Reid, for Jim Harbaugh to win this, plus 1,300, not a bad bet. But the only way Jim Harbaugh wins coach of the year is if he outduels Andy Reid in the regular season. If the Chargers win the AFC West, frankly, if Pete Carroll wins the AFC West also, that, by the way, that is how either one of those coaches wins coach of the year. If Sean Payton,
the AFC West, he better be the unanimous coach of the year.
You're right. But look, by the way, there are 3 coaches on this first page from the AFC West, and yet Andy Reid's on the last page, right? Because that goes to show you, if any of these 3 coaches outduels Andy Reid for that division, they're winning coach of the year, period. That is in stone. That will happen. So if you have anything to say about the AFC West that you think it's not going to be the Chiefs, then throw some money at that. But the list is great. Again, the list is, I don't, you don't have to take shots at the guys that are brand new, because I guess we just, let them kind of go ahead and put their shoe in their mouth eventually. But for now, they're improving commodities. I understand why Ben Johnson's getting a lot of hype with what Detroit has done, but it's really if you think a team that didn't make the playoffs last year is going to this season, that's generally how that goes. Coach of the year generally goes that route. So if you think Steichen and the Colts are going to figure it out with Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones and make it to the playoffs, that's a ticket for Steichen to ultimately win coach of the year as well.
By the way, we've got almost 120 people in the room. We don't even have 50 likes yet.
Oh, come on. It's so easy. You're right there.
Just all you got to do is hit thumbs up. It's really easy. It costs you nothing. No one's offered any supers today. So, just hit like, hit subscribe. It's free. It's easy. Thank you. It helps the algorithm embrace us. And now that I'm done taking leaks, we got a show for you. And
I will say, Joe Sullivan had a good comment there also, Damon, if you want to put it up, in regards to best coaches. And I think it's worth talking about. And for those that haven't yet, and Damon, if you haven't either, he's talking about Detroit, going to be an interesting watch, Joe Sullivan in the comments. For those that haven't watched, Joe Sullivan, Detroit is going to be interesting to watch. I'm looking at here, but I'll just say it anyway. That's a great point, Joe.
Well, here's
Detroit,
Joe again, smash that like button.
Yes, let's go, Joe. I love that. And Joe says Detroit's going to be interesting to watch, and I agree. Dan Campbell is the kind of coach that you want to see win coach of the year because of what he says. Damon, I know you got a drop coming for Dan Campbell as well, but Dan Campbell is the kind of guy that says crazy shit and backs it up. And his team,
if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes, I will beat your ass.
Don't you want that? Don't you want him to win coach of the year? And for those that Damon, give me one more.
Well, the thing is, though, I just think that he's basically out of the conversation before he can even get in it. Or you could say, because everyone feels that way, all the Lions need to do is win 10 games and he'll get consideration. He lost his offensive and defensive coordinator throughout the history of football. A division winner who loses both coordinators does not come back with a very good year the next year. So we're about to find out an awful lot about Dan Campbell. And if the Lions do have a good year, he will kind of be singularly the reason why in terms of voters. So maybe there is some Dan Campbell
little juice there.
Yeah.
And for those that aren't doing it right now, the great series, Quarterback on Netflix. Do yourself a favor and watch that. It's Goff, it's Burrow, and it's Kirk Cousins, and it's just a tremendous watch. You're never going to like Joe Burrow more in your life to watch that, but also there's good Dan Campbell and Goff moments throughout it. Okay. You're going to, it's, I mean, if you like football, again, you love that position, quarterback, and this is just taking you into the life of 3 very well-known quarterbacks. I think you'll love it.
You know what had me totally sold on Joe Burrow is my kind of guy. His last year at LSU, his last game when he comes out with the BURREUX.
Awesome.
That's when I'm like, this guy gets it. He understands how to really get a fan base behind him. That was fantastic.
And remember, Damon, we are smart enough, old enough to know college football when players actually had to be there for 2 and 3 seasons, and they really get ingrained into a community. I mean, Burrow is basically a guy who's trying to make it at Ohio State, then transfer portal over to LSU and becomes that and embraces that and runs what will go down without question as arguably the greatest college football offense of all time, but certainly at LSU. But I mean, when you look at Chase and Burrow and what they did there and Higgins, I mean, that is such a special team, what they did, what Chase and Burrow did. Unreal.
By the way, I speak of a lack of supers, and what do you know? People start answering the bell.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ernberg, oh, Mr. Positivity. Kyle will never win a Super Bowl with a loser quarterback like Brock Purdy. Huge Niner fan, Joseph Ernberg, constantly rooting for the demise of his own team and franchise. He's an interesting case. Joe Sullivan, smash the like button.
Yes.
Love Sammy on the show. So do we indeed. And hot take, Detroit comes in last place. Tommy?
Wow.
I'll tell you, I think they got enough talent to prevent a last place finish. But if the Bears really do exceed, if Green Bay does not fall off at all, and if Minnesota doesn't have an extreme fall off because they're trying to figure out the post Sam Darnold era, yeah, I mean, that's out there.
It's there. I just think you're putting a lot on JJ McCarthy. You're putting a lot on JJ and Caleb Williams to say last place for Detroit. Although the injuries sustained and the lack of the coordinators, I mean, if the injury bug hits them the way that it did this season, on top of losing the coordinators, not out of the question. Not out of the question. I mean, look, the Niners. Who had the Niners in last place coming into last season? I mean, these things do happen.
By the way, Joseph says Joe Burrow's O-line failed him in that Super Bowl too. Joe Burrow's offensive line doesn't do anything but fail him. I saw a Warren Sharp breakdown of Joe Burrow, who he is against the blitz, not against the blitz, who he is under pressure, not under pressure. There are basically no Joe Burrow not under pressure stats to even look at. That's how under pressure he is at all times, and he still delivers one of the best, most accurate, beautifully thrown balls in the league. In pure quarterbacking talent, there may not be a more talented quarterback than Joe Burrow. That includes Mahomes.
I'm with you on that. And of course, remember, head to head, Burrow is one of the few quarterbacks that can say, I've beaten Mahomes more times than I've lost to Mahomes. There's not a long list of players that can do that, including in the postseason, which is remarkable. But Burrow, Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, I like to say that they're just 1 through 4, 4 through 1, however you want to slot them. I don't even care. Those are just the 4 quarterbacks of merit. The only knock on Burrow, though, I will admit, because people knock Lamar for not winning in the playoffs, but you got to, again, I'm a Sixers fan, so injuries play a part when you have a conversation about somebody, Joel Embiid. Joe Burrow has been injured. He joked at the award show this season. Comeback Player of the Year is not something you want to be nominated for twice in your career at this point. Right? I mean, that basically says last year was not great. And for him, it doesn't mean not great. It was injured. Injured twice at this point in his career. Again, not his fault. And again, what the comment just said, right? His O-line has let him down. And that Super Bowl run, Aaron Donald pointing at, now I got a ring. Yes, Aaron Donald got to Burrow. That was a big difference in that game. There was also a late penalty against the Bengals, which I hated in that game. But regardless, Burrow with a little help. And again, watch quarterback. Again, you want to love Burrow. And speaking of the fact that his offensive line lets him down and his defense let him down like crazy last season. You know what Burrow said on that show, which you'll all love? He said, I don't yell at anyone on the sideline. And here's why. Because eventually I'm going to fuck up.
Right.
And what point does that make to everybody else? And do I want somebody yelling at me? I don't. So you can tell Burrow just swallows whatever's happening in a game and just looks at the offense and says, let's go do it. He picks everybody else up and just says, all right, let's go do it now. And last season, they had to do that numerous times where they thought they had a game in the bag. And the defense was, look at their defense was historically bad last season. So they had to come back and pull it out again and again and again. And he's the guy for that.
Joseph again coming in. Go Niners, but fuck Kyle and Brock, a pair of losers. Joseph, I don't.
What? Come on. Okay, wait. Can we identify what losing is?
Right. These guys go to Super Bowls. Losing Super Bowls doesn't mean you're a loser. They are really good at what they do. And what you're saying is you like blue skies, but you hate sunshine. You are going to be the most miserable person in the world, Joseph. And look at it this way. If the Niners do ever win with these two guys, you can't celebrate a second of it. Because
you're on the record
against it the whole time. So what are you doing, dude? I mean,
it's fair.
It's the dumbest way to be a fan there possibly is. It seriously is.
The term is fair weather, and it's awful. I can't even imagine what you would want. I mean, if you could swap those two guys out right now, who would you want? I mean, I understand if you say Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I get it, that's fine. But there's not combos outside of that. In fact, there's another great list. We'll probably end up doing it next week, Damon. The best triplets in the league offensively right now, and the Niners they're on that list. I think they're right outside of the top 10 on that. But you could argue. I mean, Purdy, McCaffrey, and Ayuk is great. And I think if you didn't make it triplets and you threw head coach in there, the Niners, from an offensive standpoint, when you look at the players at those positions, the Niners are set up for the next 10 years to keep this dominance.
10 years is a long time. But look, for any team to have continuity from one year to the next, head coach, quarterback are pieces that can't be revolving and moving around an awful lot. And hopefully the Niners, they got both those positions parked on the right guys for the foreseeable future. I know that Brock's got a lot more time to prove himself than Kyle does at this point. But
Sure.
In another way, I think they're also very much linked to each other. So,
and by the way, what Kyle has proven on a positive side, what Kyle has proven to do with offenses, with quarterbacks, and with running games, remember that. Don't say, oh, Kyle Shanahan's known for the 28-3 loss to the Patriots as the coordinator in Atlanta with Dan
I've
Quinn.
never seen an offensive coordinator catch more heat for a blown lead when the defensive coordinator, the head coach, their names have never been attached to that Super Bowl loss. It's literally as if Kyle Shanahan was the only one in a Falcons uniform that day that lost that game. It is the biggest bullshit revisionist history ever applied to a coach. I have never seen any coordinator receive praise or condemnation for winning a Super Bowl or losing a Super Bowl other than Buddy Ryan winning in 85 and Kyle Shanahan blowing 28-3. It's insane.
And Dan Quinn's getting incredible praise right now for what's happening in Washington, and nobody is bringing up the idea that he was actually the head coach
Dan
in that.
Quinn was the coach of that Falcons team. It's not even brought up. That was Kyle Shanahan's fault. And by the way, Falcons fans don't even say that. Niners fans say that, which is really, really weird. And Joe Sullivan says, who does Joe want to coach and quarterback?
Yeah.
I'll tell you the answer. He wants his memories of Bill Walsh and Joe Montana to live forever. That's what he wants.
It's fair. Nobody's more nostalgic and euphoric than I am, and I can understand that and appreciate that. And as an Eagles fan, it's not a long history of winning Super Bowl, so it's sort of like a Foles, Peterson, Sirianni, Hurts conversation. But it's okay to want both things, but you do have to remake it. To think that Doug Peterson, Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, none of that had to do with a Super Bowl that they won 7 years later is incredible. There's a statue of two guys that have nothing to do with what happened when they went to the Super Bowl in 2022 and won it in 2024. And we're used, right? I mean, look, when Kansas City's going back, it's the same two guys. When New England was going back, it's the same two guys. And yet the Eagles remade it, and now you're going to have to hope that the Niners can remake it. And we went over the best teams in the history of the Niners when you look at 2000 to 2025. And yeah, Harbaugh and Kaepernick tried to bring it back again and again, could only get there once. You got to love the fact that Shanahan has been there twice now. This has to feel right.
Says, I'm not old enough to remember watching them. So you mean you're like angry about everything millennial douche? Like Joseph, the only credence I got was I figured you were some stubborn old man. The fact that you're this cynical at a young age means you were raised wrong. You have no right to demand anything as a 49. If you can't remember Joe Montana and Jerry Rice playing, what the fuck are you measuring anything against?
And I would say this much, and I have a friend who does this. He basically chooses the best team and becomes a fan of that team. And that's fine. Ernberg. Become a Chiefs fan. Because, by the way, if you are a Chiefs fan, and all of us would say that in the current version of this game in the NFL, the team you would want to be a fan of to be smiling more Sundays than not would be the Chiefs. And right now, the Chiefs are miserable with what happened last season. They're miserable about it. They think Kelsey should retire. They think it's time for someone else to win the AFC West. They're pissed that Andy Reid didn't prepare them better to do anything other than stop Barkley in that Super Bowl. They are beside themselves upset.
Did you see the one host in Kansas City who decided to try to crucify Patrick Mahomes for not being ripped? Patrick Mahomes wasn't terribly out of shape. He just wasn't peak ripped in season. He's got his 8 extra pounds on his dad bod, and there was this host in Kansas City, which basically says, oh, this guy's a freaking embarrassment to the organization. Like, what are you fucking talking about?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Out loud. Patrick Mahomes is an embarrassment to the Chiefs organization. Patrick Mahomes is literally more important than Arrowhead Stadium to your organization. What are you talking about?
Patrick Mahomes, I'm not going to say deserves no criticism ever. But again, if you want to know what Patrick Mahomes does to get ready for games, I talked about it earlier, the quarterback season, when you get there on Netflix and you start watching Goff and Burrow and Cousins, the first season has Mahomes in it. Watch the way Mahomes twerks and tweaks his body with his trainer to be able to make, when he's throwing off balance throws, it's because he has practiced what his body will have to do to balance and make that throw, twisting with somebody on him while he's making that throw. It's so awesome to see what Mahomes does. If you are wondering why he looks like Gumby out there making plays, it's because he prepared that way during the off season. I'm sorry, we're not even having this conversation. We're not questioning Patrick Mahomes. We're just not in the business of that.
We kind of go over this ground almost every week when we talk about it. You totally reject he wasn't very good, but for 1 year when he won a title or won an
MVP, right? When he was the best player in the league. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But you take that 1 year away, what is his career? That's ridiculous. You take the Declaration of Independence away, what is America? Come on, you can't take away the finest moment of someone's career to try to reevaluate it. I hate that conversation. I hate how people try to have that conversation. Another conversation that I completely hate is when it comes to football, which is the ultimate team sport, and you could say, well, basketball is kind of an ultimate team sport. It's like improvisational jazz. Yeah, but Miles Davis can change your quartet quickly all by himself. Yeah. Where football doesn't really work like that. I saw an article about, I don't know why this is back up in. I think Brady was talking about it, Kraft or something. Maybe Bill Belichick or Jordan Hudson said something about it. I don't know. But the conversation is who gets credit for the Patriots dynasty. Is it Brady? Is it Kraft? Is it Belichick? How about this? It's kind of all of them. What are we talking about? Seriously, what are we talking about? Who gets credit? All of them do. Wouldn't you say the owner, the coach, and the quarterback are always playing important roles on a football team? Like this to me is
I also want to discuss the word credit. All right. So if you're ever in an argument with someone and they say, "Oh, you just want the credit," they're telling you that you're wrong to want the credit, right? Oh, you just want the credit. First of all, they're misusing the word. What they mean in that argument is, oh, you just want the praise. And I can understand that, right? In other words, you want to thank you, right? Or you want someone to pat you on the back. That's what they're suggesting, that you want the praise for something. And by the way, for something that you've done, right? This is someone having an argument to say, oh, you want the credit. Right. But what they mean to say is you want the praise, because
if you're wearing the ring, why do you need any?
And guess what? That's my point. My point is the credit is that you actually did it. Think about a credit report. No one's telling you, congratulations, your credit is this. It's just that when you go to buy something, the company says, all right, we're going to let you buy it because we trust you. That's the credit. So all three of those guys get the fucking credit. They have the credit. But I will say this, because sports is a scoreboard. I do dissect the Belichick Brady thing because the Tampa year happened. The Belichick Brady thing is you at least can say, if we're putting on a Post-it note, pros, cons, or votes for each guy, what Brady did in Tampa with Bruce Arians to turn that thing around, to bring Gronk in, and to take a Jameis Winston-led team the next season to winning the Super Bowl and smashing Mahomes. Not that Brady was on the defensive side, but you get my point.
Yes.
And Belichick is dealing with Cam Newton and then taking Mac Jones to get smashed in the first round by the Bills the next season. We can say that at that point, you begin to say, oh, maybe Brady a little over Belichick. First of all, Kraft paid for the whole fucking thing. So you want to talk about credit? None of it truly officially happens. The guy that signs every fucking check is a pretty important. There's a great line in Boogie Nights where the producer of the films is getting introduced, and Burt Reynolds says he's a pretty important part of the process. Yeah, he's the most important part of the process. He's paying for the whole thing. So right. Yes, Robert Kraft deserves the credit, but if you want to argue for Belichick, so that's what happened. Kraft was asked really about the hiring of Belichick. Why didn't he hire him immediately? That was the question, right? Because Belichick was there with Parcells. He could have just hired from within and made Belichick the coach. Instead, it becomes Pete Carroll, and then Belichick has to come back with telling the Jets to fuck off and then going to New England. That's okay. That's that whole history. But Kraft says, yeah, I wanted Carroll in there. So there's a little bit of, oh, wow, maybe Kraft screwed up there. Really? He eventually hired Belichick to be his head coach and eventually drafted Tom Brady. And eventually the three of them got it all done together. I'm with you, Damon.
It's hard to complain about the timeline, how it comes out when the results are historically positive throughout the entire thing. One might argue that it was done perfectly, even with the swing and the miss early on. Like that,
You're right. They figured it out. I heard a story yesterday. What happened was Kraft originally wanted Carroll in there because he wanted a quote. This was on NFL radio yesterday on Sirius XM. He wanted a three-headed monster to make decisions. He wanted there to be sort of an ownership, a football, and a personnel. That's what he wanted. He wanted three people making the decision. So when he brought Carroll in, Carroll didn't have all of the control the way when he brought Belichick in. He eventually just gave all of the control to Belichick. So they figured it out.
Parcells in the whole, if they want to cook the meal, let them buy the groceries thing, right?
So Parcells was running everything. Kraft kind of said, okay, I don't want to do it again that way. And he knew Belichick would, so he didn't give him. And then when he was ready to do it that way, he brings Belichick in, and who gives a shit, because the history on that is unbelievable. And they're all just having amazing Shane Gillis jokes at the ESPYs about Bill Belichick. Good for you. You're dating somebody that's 50 years younger than you, and that's what happens when you win 6 Super Bowls. And frankly, that's the truth.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You get to fuck in a whole different bedroom than the rest of us. And that is, it's good to be king. There's no other way to say it. It's good to be king. So look, when it comes to who gets the most credit, like you said, we sort of ran the experiment broken up a little bit. And look, Tom Brady gets the ultimate bragging rights here. He did the ultimate thing without the other two guys involved. And the other two guys don't have nearly the level of success without the quarterback involved. But if we're being completely honest, and we really wanted to do it, even though any good organization starts from the top down, the truth is you can have a terrible owner, and if they just get out of the way and write the checks, they will have done a good job. The player is always the most responsible, followed by the coach putting the player in the best position, followed by the owner who just writes the checks. So if we're being honest, we know what the pecking order is, but there's no reason to even bring it up, because it was a glorious moment in which everyone was at the peak of their powers, and no one should be looking for more credit than the other. Like, true leadership is wanting to share the credit. That's what real leadership looks like. And the fact that each one of those guys is trying to say, no, I was most responsible, it does not make much sense to me, because all of them know that they wouldn't have been able to do it without the others, except for Tom Brady, who really went and did it without the others. But his coaches and his teammates and that owner all meant something to him down in Tampa.
Yeah.
He chose to go to that situation and not another one. Anyway, we're rolling along here. What do we got? We got one more super. This is coming from Ryan. Thank you, Ryan, who's putting 20 in the ganja jar. I like your takes, but was Kyle not an integral part of 3 Super Bowl losses by his decision-making, play calling, and understanding of overtime rules? Kyle's a good coach, but until he wins the Super Bowl, the criticism is fair. I will say that it was fair to say Phil Mickelson is the best golfer who has yet to win a major until he won it.
Then he did.
And then he did.
Peyton Manning had this moniker against him. By the way, for those that follow NASCAR at all, Jimmy Johnson, who won back-to-back NASCAR Cups, whatever the fuck they call them. But bottom line is Jimmy Johnson couldn't win the big race and then became the greatest, most historic winner in NASCAR. It does happen. You got to break through and have that moment. It's clearly just what does happen.
Was Kyle part of a bad overtime? Yes, he was.
Okay.
Did Kyle miss Emmanuel Sanders the way that Jimmy Garoppolo did? I'm not going to put that on Kyle. I'm also going to not put it on Kyle that Richard Sherman got dusted by Tyreek Hill on a 3rd and Super Bowl, which was bad. And I'm not putting 28-3 blown.
No.
Guy who was in charge of the 28-3. Look at it this way. Everything was going at the point of up to 28-3. And then did the defense blow it, or did the offense blow it?
No. And again, Edelman makes an amazing play. By the way, also Julio Jones has an amazing catch in that game. By the way, yeah, I'm going to go take a leak right now, too. Watch this, Damon.
Okay,
I can do it, too. I can do it, too.
Knock it off. You go ahead. Have a great leak, Sammy. Have a great one. But it is ridiculous how much blame everyone wants to put on Shanahan. And then the minute that if they do win it, people will be like, they did it in spite of Shanahan. He had nothing to do with it. Like, this guy's seasons continue to end in NFC title games. That's a pretty good point of failure to be working from. It's something that I wouldn't walk away from unless I was forced to. And that's why he is still the head coach of the 49ers. Last year was uninspiring the whole way through. I'll agree with you. It really was. But people need to seriously, calm down on who's responsible for all this failure. Football is hard. The number one guy complaining that the 49ers have not won it all yet is the same dude that hits reset on every game of Madden the first time he throws an interception. All the time. I think that this is a team that is worthy of running it back. Not just completely running it back with no change. There has been extreme change around the 49ers, and it was change that they needed. They had to get more of a middle class and a younger group of players in, and they've done that. Let's see where this year goes. He is back, boys.
Look at that. I mean, the fact that you and I can do that together, and that we each can do that is really a testament, not only to this amazing friendship and partnership, but it really, I mean, that's like a symbiotic thing. That's almost like, when women sort of end up on the cycle together, Damon.
I knew you had to pee before you had to pee. I really did. I looked at it. I was like, oh, Emmy's about to get up here, isn't he?
It's going to happen. That was great. I only want to say one thing, by the way, to this whole conversation about Shanahan and the Niners. I just want to remind people that you really have to be careful what you wish for. And these teams, ask Aaron Rodgers if he'd rather be with Matt LaFleur right now. Just imagine where you are and what happens. Grass is greener. What we all want to remember the way things were years ago. And again, I want to know, you know what? It comes down to Ernberg, because he's the one that comes and fires at you with this constantly. I really do want to know from Ernberg, what was his favorite 49ers team? We had the conversation, right? Because he's not going to go back to Walsh and Montana and Young, right? If we say since 2000, what is Ernberg's favorite team? Because it's a great conversation, because none of those teams won a Super Bowl. Many were spectacular and are written in the history books for the decades, the 2.5 decades we've had since 2000. What is your favorite Niners team there? I want to know that from Ernberg, because that'll help us understand what isn't happening here with Shanahan and Purdy.
By the way, I just ran into the pop-up ad that freezes.
There it is. The acorn. Acorn.
Yeah, I just had to reset that. Sorry to anyone who's going through that. And all I can tell you is get your shit together, YouTube. By the way, Joseph Ernberg does come in with another super saying, what do they need to add to
That's a better conversation
this year? What they need is health. With health, the 49ers, I believe, are a playoff team this year. So they already have it. The question is, will they lose it? I hope they don't. I really think if they're healthy, they're a playoff team.
Ernberg answered. I think Ernberg answered, by the way, if you want to grab it. Ernberg answered here.
My favorite team was 2022, right when Brock started and ran the table. They were a Super Bowl team, better than the 2003 team, in my opinion. And after 2003, the last season, they are cooked. But Brock is cooked? Do you want to now reset Brock? You got to get rid of him? You just said you got excited when he ran the table. Then
leave it up there. 2022. This is the greatest endorsement of Brock Purdy all time, because because this says that you feel you're a Super Bowl team if not for Hassan Reddick taking off Brock Purdy's shoulder and arm, which is what happened. So again, there's two things I want to make a point about. Number one, you're saying, much like Debo, that is a different game and a different outcome. Now, remember, the Chiefs were next, so you don't just get a ring for winning that game against the Eagles either. But you got to take on the Chiefs, and maybe if you're saying that team was ready and stacked, that's because Purdy, you're saying, was the quarterback and was the difference that Josh Johnson could not do anything in that NFC Championship, or Christian McCaffrey playing quarterback, which he had to at one point. That got ugly, but it got ugly for that reason. The other point I want to make as a proud Eagles fan is, don't rewrite history and tell me that Brock Purdy was injured. Remember, he wasn't injured coming into that game. The Eagles' historic defense that season, because that was a season when the Eagles, by the way, look at it, it's the most sacks any defense has ever had throughout a season, or maybe since they started keeping track, whatever you want to say. But
either way, we have not heard Hassan Reddick's name since that moment.
We haven't. No, we haven't. And yet Brock Purdy is the one that's laughing now, because since that moment, and by the way, give Purdy credit again for that. This is a quarterback who got hurt in this part of his body. Is that important for the quarterback? Is that important? Is this region here? Are shoulders and arms important when you're playing quarterback? And he's been in the Super Bowl since that moment. I thank you, Arnberg. Thank you. It was a trap. It was a trap. It was going to be difficult for you to answer that in a way that we wouldn't call it out. But you are essentially saying that you love Purdy and Shanahan because that team could have won the Super Bowl in your eyes.
I don't love the ESPYs. My streak of never watching the ESPYs has run the gamut of every ESPYs that has ever been shown. Outside of opening monologues and a highlight or two, I know nothing about the ESPYs. I couldn't tell you who was a single award winner other than the year where they gave Female Athlete of the Year to Caitlyn Jenner, which is still just patently offensive in all ways of looking at it. And that's not a commentary on the trans community as much as it is a commentary of how ridiculous that award was. So this is the Female Athlete of the Year because she had a conversation with Barbara Walters. Fuck off. That's just straight up.
I was friends with Bruce Jenner for a while. I mean, I don't know that he'd consider me a friend, but I was close to Bruce Jenner for a while. He came in and did radio for us at Fox Sports Radio. He filled in for an entire week once for Tony Bruno, I remember. And he was a tremendous dude, and what a life and what an Olympian. And when it comes to the ESPYs, Damon, I want to say this much. I don't think I have watched an entire ESPYs either, but you just hit something on the head. The monologue, and especially in today's day and age where you can just cut up what you want and everything is distributed in small portions for everybody, the monologue is really all you need. I have one commentary about the awards and one commentary about Shane Gillis, who presented. I'd like all of you to go find on YouTube just the 10, 12 minutes of Shane Gillis. I thought it was written incredibly well. I thought he took massive chances and swings, and you were the one that got me to go back and do it. It was your comment about one of his jokes about Caitlin Clark, which got me to say, oh, wait, that's right. It's the guy I love on the show Tires that I now need to watch at the ESPYs. And it is worth all of your time. 12 minutes of your time. Go check out everything that Shane Gillis did to talk about this country, the president, the WNBA, everything. He took a shot at nearly everything.
Everything and everyone. Like if
it was Ricky Gervais Golden Globes. It was at that. I really thought it was at that level. Damon.
It was if you think I'm here to play nice with a network that's striving for political correctness and landing everything gently about marginalized conversations, fuck off. I'm here to burn it down. And I do respect that. That is the Gillis brand, if you will. And I'm a fan of it. I like unafraid comedians. I always have. I saw one of the things he did last night, and this probably really pissed off the WNBA, is there was a very attractive, athletic black woman in the crowd. And he's like, ladies and gentlemen, we have WNBA All-Star Brittany Jennings here. And he points at her and the whole crowd is like this. And he's like, actually, that's just my buddy's wife. It just shows you how little you all know about the WNBA. And so that was awesome. And then the line that was just unbelievable. And this is where the internet's going to give a little fake outrage here. Shane Gillis said, and I quote, when Caitlin Clark retires from the WNBA, she's going to work at a Waffle House so she can continue doing what she loves the most, fist fighting black women. That was hysterical. It was supposed to be edgy and offensive. And all I can tell you is if you were offended by that, you are probably a starting small forward in the WNBA, you jokeless, humorless asshole.
They knew who to pan to in the crowd. It was really smart, Damon. I don't know if ESPN, wanted to get the outrageous face, right? Like I'm not going to laugh at that. Or if when they wanted to laugh though, they knew to go to McAfee. It was the McAfee cam was on standby because they knew McAfee would be giving genuine laughter to everything Gillis said.
So this is the ultimate trying to find the other thing of when Caitlyn Jenner got the damn female, and then you had Brett Favre like what?
It was Gillis did a nice job. You could even tell he was even nervous at the beginning. You could see that he was reading everything. He was clearly involved in the writing of all of it. And you could tell he was not nervous in the delivery, but probably nervous in the idea that he knew at that point that he was stepping into pissing off a room full of people. It's because when you're a stand-up comedian, you're not necessarily ripping the people directly in the crowd. You're more ripping a generalization of a group of people, right? The idea that he was now in a room ripping the people that were in that room, I think he understood the gravity of that in the moment. And a couple of times he was very self-deferential to say, yeah, they let me keep that one in there. I knew that one wasn't going to land. Yeah, that one didn't hit all week. He did a great job of coming back to that to make it a little human in the idea that could we all picture ourselves up there trying to do that? And he nailed it. I mean, just for those that do yourself a favor, watch Tires, which is a show on Netflix that Shane Gillis stars in. You'll love it. He is incredibly funny and he does take chances. He did a very, very nice job of spreading it around also. I don't think nobody felt safe within that, and that was the right thing to do.
My favorite thing about just the way that society is walking now is compared to what it was. Like I hate any element of we're going to joke around, we're going to have fun, we might laugh at you at your expense is now being classified as the death of woke. I saw like the fact that Dave Portnoy and Barstool are going to be heavily involved now with Fox. It just shows you that the pendulum has so swung back to being politically incorrect that you can say. So let me tell you, at the risk of getting political here, the fact that woke became a word for anyone in which to put their complaints inside of this empty vessel. I'm going to use the term woke to complain about anything and everything that has a racial connotation to the original idea of woke was never explained well. So leave it to a 50-year-old white man to give you the single most perfect definition of woke you'll ever hear in your fucking life. Don't sleep on a 50-year-old white guy who's going gray. We know shit. Here is the definition of woke as it should have been, and then we saw everybody exploit it. We all know the saying, walk a mile in that man's shoes. All woke was the question, how did he get those shoes to begin with? That's what it was. That thought process is a noble thought process and exercise for anyone to go through. The fact that it was so counter-used, though, against any reasonable thought as to, okay, so this guy's life circumstances come from what exactly, and how are my life circumstances the dividing factor from the life I lived and the life you've lived? That's all it was. It got co-opted and spun in a million different directions. And again, any movement that has no clear definition or leader is designed to fail eventually.
And let me give credit to one thing, Damon, here. I'm going to give credit to what we're doing right now on YouTube. I think the popularity of YouTube and faces and voices on YouTube that I'm not going to say that are uncensored, but that are just bold enough to say and do what they want. And maybe we'll give credit here to McAfee. I'll use him again. And credit to ESPN for doing this as well. Because what ESPN did in having Shane Gillis host that show, and frankly, in having Pat McAfee host a show Monday through Friday, and then in now Fox going after Portnoy the way that they have, this shows that the bold opinion is popular amongst the audience. And that, and by the way, people that are paid millions of dollars to decide who they want to pay millions of dollars for to entertain a group of people, those are the people that understand that being bold and being different and not being safe at times eventually is going to get us all paid. And that's all that happened. It is paying people on YouTube who aren't under contract with anyone other than just saying, if you watch me, I'm going to make money from that. So that started, and McAfee gained incredible fame there. And then ESPN says, all right, we're going to take a chance and put something on that we used to say is maybe beyond the line for us. They take that chance, they do it. And frankly, Shane Gillis was a doubling down of that. Because guess what? They knew everything that was in that teleprompter for Gillis last night, and somebody somewhere signed off and said, all right, that's right at the line, but we're okay with it. And that is why we're talking about it right now. And the ESPYs has legs beyond what just happened in the moment during that award show, because ESPN took a chance that maybe in the past they wouldn't have. I thought it was a bold move. And frankly, it was an entertaining moment because it was essentially a Netflix special for a Shane Gillis 10-minute stand-up routine. And that's frankly what it should have been.
To be offended by someone's words is proof that you were raised by weak people. I've always thought that. To be offended by what someone says means you are mentally weaker than the other person sitting next to you. Like, I just believe that in my heart of hearts. I don't care what offends you. Just because you are offended by something doesn't mean that you are superior to the person who isn't offended by it. It's just all this bullshit virtue signaling. And I love that a guy like Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes years ago, Shane Gillis at the ESPYs, comes out and tells everyone, all of your farts stink. Fuck all of you. I'm here to make fun of all of you. And I will say this about the WNBA. You know when you're going to be good in my book, WNBA, and not a minute before? When someone can give one of the women in your league the nickname the Big Dumper and nobody complains. Because there is a guy right now in the Seattle Mariners who has a nickname, the Big Dumper. He didn't ask for it. He didn't choose it. It was just given to him, and it works, and it's funny, and it's likable, and everyone likes it. Are we sexualizing Cal Rayleigh? Well, I don't think so. It's just kind of a joke. But you nickname a WNBA player with the Big Dumper, and there isn't like an emergency press conference and a cease and desist. If you did that to a woman in the WNBA, the entire league might go on protest. And speaking of the entire league going on protest, I just saw that Caitlin Clark is not going to be playing in your All-Star game. So let's see what those ratings are before you try to tell me what she doesn't mean to your league.
I'm glad you brought up two things. Cal Raleigh and All-Star game. I just want to make my 90-second soliloquy. When you talk about people being outraged, I want to say that so much should be going right in your life. If you are complaining about a Major League Baseball All-Star game, if you are complaining about a Major League Baseball All-Star game MVP, everything in your life lines up beautifully. If that makes your priority list of things you have to actually be upset about, congratulations, your life is fucking perfect. All right. I hope that there are bigger problems in your life than the All-Star game MVP going to Kyle Schwarber. And let me just say this much. Will that All-Star game, Damon, be remembered for anything other than Kyle Schwarber going 3 for 3 on a home run derby at the end of the 9th inning? Will it in history, in 10 years, in 20 years, will we remember anything from that All-Star game other than Kyle Schwarber going 3 for 3, exhibition or not?
So I love Schwarber, and that is what I will remember. But I'll also remember, how come we're having swing-offs and neither Aaron Judge nor Shohei Ohtani is being involved in that? That feels like a crime against everything that is, easy to understand. I loved the Henry Aaron tribute. I loved the Clayton Kershaw talking to John Smoltz moment from the mound. I really liked the fact that they let the teams wear their uniforms in the game. They got that right. I thought it was a good night for baseball. It would have been a better night for baseball had they just kept on playing baseball. I don't like the swing off. It's the first time it's ever happened. Well, it's the first time in the history of baseball that everybody involved in the sport has turned into a massive fucking pussy and won't let a guy go longer than, 2/3 of an inning in a goddamn All-Star game. Like,
I
work 2 innings if you're worried about running out of pitchers at the end of the night.
I love that Kyle Schwarber of Philly stole the MVP from Pete Alonso, a Met. And if Pete Alonso wants to be upset with anybody about missing out on the MVP, I'll say 2 things. Number 1, the National League had a 6-0 lead that was given away. Credit to the American League and credit to Quan on the Guardians, who played hero for a moment, right? I mean,
the San Francisco Giants pitching being right in the middle of another National League meltdown.
That's great. That is perfect. I knew you'd get there. Also, I just want to remind everyone, Aaron Boone, don't give Aaron Boone shit. Damon, you just said it. Aaron Judge was not available, whether he was gone or there. And frankly, he was gone. And the guy I want to point to that should have been available for Aaron Boone is the guy you mentioned when we started this segment, big dumper Cal Raleigh. No matter how many showers he took after coming out of that game, he is not only leading the league in homers, he's the home run derby champion, and the game is going to be decided by a home run derby, and he is not telling Aaron Boone, you have to get me up here. That is ridiculous because Cal Raleigh was not gone. He was there. He was just showered, and everyone thought that he wouldn't be warm enough to hit. This guy's been put on this planet to do this one thing this year, and that was his moment to say, I am the home run derby champ, and I am the home run champ of this All-Star game, because in 10 years, when you ask people who won the home run derby for the All-Star weekend, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber, it will be morphed in people's mind. They will remember that that was the home run derby of merit, and that is the moment, not Cal Raleigh winning on Monday night, but Kyle Schwarber winning it on Tuesday night. So that's the guy that should have been there. And just a reminder, Aaron Boone put Aranda up, who, by the way, hit a dart into the wall that would have tied the game. We were a foot away from that being not a conversation whatsoever. And guess who would have come up in the bottom of the swing off to win the whole thing and potentially win his MVP back? Pete Alonso. That would have been kind of cool also. But I love Schwarber, 3 for 3, Casey at the bat, Babe Ruth, and everything else.
It was great. It was great. I just wish they would leave baseball alone. Stop changing the rules of the game or how a game ends. This is not, I don't want the NHL. I don't want a shootout at the end of a game. I don't want a ghost runner. Just keep playing and manage your roster better. Like, that's what I would like to see. Actual managerial decisions.
By the way, how'd you like ABS balls and strikes? I thought it was quick and efficient.
It's here to stay.
Yeah, without
it's
question.
Here to stay. It's here, considering that it was 3-0 overturning the wrong call. I think it's here to stay.
You gotta like that. And it was quick. It was quick. And by the way, I've always said this, Damon, if you and I have the opportunity to see strike versus ball on my TV from my couch with my remote,
right?
Shouldn't the umpire have that information? Shouldn't the umpire have the ability to say, oh, it is a strike? I mean, you're wearing glasses right now. Frankly, for everyone out there, I should be wearing glasses right now. I mean, if it helps us do something better, why not give it to us?
Right. The reason why Sam doesn't wear his glasses on the show is because they're thick framed and colored, and I always call him Sammy Jesse Raphael whenever he wears them.
And there you go. All right, this is what I should look like.
They should be red.
This is what I'll get a red pair. I think I have a pink pair somewhere. But yes, if it makes us do something better, and frankly, if it's the difference between right and wrong, I mean, is tennis better with Hawkeye or not? I was talking to JT the Brick yesterday. He said, really, you want a 70-year-old woman out there looking down the line on one knee to tell me if a ball was in or out when we have a fucking satellite that can tell us specifically whether it touched the white mark or not? That's it. That's what you want. That's what technology is. Use it.
By the way, Joseph Erberg is about to work his way into your good graces here, Sammy. Sammy looks a little like Ryan Reynolds.
Yes. Thank you for that. That is wow. I mean, Erberg, way to go full circle here. That was an amazing comeback.
SF Indigo, a member now for 18 months. Thank you so much, SF Indigo. Wow. I kind of want Caitlin Clark to take Ice Cube's offer and leave the WNBA for the big three. If she did, you'd hear an awful lot less about this next collective bargaining agreement. I'll tell you that right now. WNBA, don't go overstepping. You're on the launching pad of turning your league profitable. Don't go demanding massive salaries in a league that is yet to turn a profit. I don't care what these franchise values are. The Valkyries ain't actually worth $500 million. This is all funny money and bullshit.
And look, and those 4 letters are coming out of your mouth, Damon, which means it's relevant. WNBA are 4 letters that you did not used to spew from your mouth, and you have, and that means it simply arrived. And with Shane Gillis, I would say 30% of those jokes were aimed at the WNBA, if not more, and that means that league has arrived, period. Right. I mean, it has, and this is their moment.
If you want to know whether or not I like you, am I teasing you? Is the number one way to know. Because if I'm not teasing you, it means I'm not even thinking about you and I don't give a shit.
There you go. Perfect.
So,
congratulations.
Because we got jokes on you, WNBA, doesn't mean you are unloved.
Quite the
Although
opposite.
I will say the Reardon High School JV team could win the WNBA. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Okay, anyway. I know you got to get running. You got to go get Levi's.
That's true. We got some time.
About a pair of jeans. We're talking about your son. So that means we have nothing left to do than frame today historically. Sammy, are you ready for today in history? And by the way, one more time before we do this, we just want to remind everybody we are brought to you by Ike's Sandwiches. You go ahead, you check out Ike's Catering for your next pool party, your next gathering. Don't just order a sandwich for yourself, order it for the entire office, for the entire party, for the entire backyard. Check out Ike's Catering. And again, no graphic needed. I am the graphic today. The Dubliner West Portal in San Francisco, the bar your mama told you about. It's just fantastic. Everything you'd need in a bar is just waiting for you at the Dubliner West Portal. Go tell Kenny and John that the Plus sent you. Are you ready for today in history, Sammy?
I really am. And please, everybody, thank you for subscribing and liking at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam, where you can catch all the content with me and Andrew Siciliano. We do a podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. And you can catch all the content on the YouTube page at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. And thanks for being part of Damon Bruce Plus. This is an outstanding channel that is making waves in this medium.
How many weeks away are we from Siciliano joining us?
This is, in fact, I'm seeing him on Sunday. That's the rumor. So this should be exciting. He's back from an epic trip, by the way. I'll compare notes, Damon. He was in Japan as well, as I'm sure you saw on social media. Yep.
Ask him if he ate the egg salad sandwich.
I 1000% will. I will for sure. And yes, Damon will be with us. I imagine before the preseason starts, because his life gets crazy with the Browns once the preseason's here. But we'll get him in there before that.
We got to get him in before NFL gets underway. Today in history, as always, we start with some happy birthdays. Happy birthday to the other woman, one of the ultimate other women in the history of other women. No, not Princess Di. We're talking about Camilla Parker Bowles. 78 years old. Everyone sort of said she's a horrible woman, but then, she really isn't. She just, had an open marriage and decided to fuck the future king of England. And he was really in love with her, not the woman that he married. And the royalties is a weird group of people.
These things happen, Damon. These things happen.
You want royalty. Here you go. Happy 73rd birthday to David Hasselhoff.
The Hoff.
I mean, whether it be Knight Rider or just running up and down the beach with that perfectly tanned body, just jiggling so little. David
or the drunk hamburger on YouTube, which is still a good video if you haven't checked it out.
Video to watch, man. That's you want to talk about what's rock bottom look like? Big rough. Mac off the bathroom floor is pretty much what it looks like.
It's just not great. But who didn't want Kit the car, by the way, from Knight Rider? I mean, who didn't want the car that talked? The Kit is an unbelievable. Even when you hit Universal Studios now, it's still cool to see Kit there. I mean, as outdated as that technology seems. I
want to see the little red bar bouncing on the front over the license plate. That was so freaking cool.
Great.
Happy 20th birthday to Connor Bedard. How about that? Only 20, Sam. This guy's been in the NHL for 6 years now. Is that what I mean?
So it's not quite, and it's probably it's 2.5, and it might be 3. But the fact that Connor Bedard will be the next name. Now, unfortunately, he has to be the next Connor that we'll talk about, not even just the next superstar, because Connor McDavid will be at the tip of our tongues for quite some time. But Connor Bedard has the chance to be the next Jonathan Taves in Chicago. Connor Bedard certainly can be that guy. He will probably bring a dynasty back to Chicago.
He's no Greeny.
That is for sure. That is for sure. But Connor McDavid will still set the tone in this league as long as he is here. Connor McDavid, as I've said many times, will be the next Wayne Gretzky. That will be Connor McDavid in that Edmonton jersey. Trust me, that's the guy coming after Gretzky's records.
Wayne Gretzky was when Edmonton trades him because they realize they're not going to go any further.
It's. I mean, look, I'm not going to not. If we're telling Ehrenberg to be okay with trips to the final, then we'll say that the Oilers back to back in the Stanley Cup Finals not bad either.
They should be happy about that too. Okay, fair enough. Let's be consistent, everyone. When I put together today in history, there are days where I learn something that I did not know about before, and today's one of those days. Today, in 1838, Douglas Wrong Way Corrigan entered aviation infamy and gained his nickname when he accidentally flew from New York to California, but went the wrong way and ended up in Ireland. And that's how you earn the name Dennis Wrong Way Corrigan. I'm going to California. Oops, I'm in Ireland.
Look, the GPS is difficult to really comprehend. And in 1838, you can imagine the lack of assistance that he had with that.
But that he had a window, right? And at some point, when you're flying over the country, going to California, and you realize, half an hour into this trip, I'm over an ocean. That's not that's not America beneath me. That's not land. That's a body of water. Am I going the right way?
That's a large lake. That is a large lake that I've been flying over for a while. But you know what? He landed and he got to live with that nickname, which is great, because that story could have ended much differently.
Well, and it says it's I am become death destroyer of words. It's not as strong as wrong hole.
Wow.
That's it is a family show, kids. It is a family show. And I'll just answer this for Sammy. Yes.
Oh, huge. Yeah. In fact, you can see a little bit of orange here through the crack, right?
Is that Hextall jersey?
So I'll bring the Hextall out next time. That is a Broad Street Bullies t-shirt that can hang over here instead of Shohei and Judge in my corner. But yes, no, not only that, Flyers, as Damon knows, is my truest passion. I mean, obviously the Eagles right now, who wouldn't be excited, but should the Flyers ever get back to the Stanley Cup final as they were in 2010, I am a different person when the Flyers are relevant, and they have been quite irrelevant in the last 5 years, but that gets my juices going like nothing else.
Today in 1902, an American mechanical engineer named Willis Carrier completed drawings for what would become the first modern air conditioner, which they started really producing in Syracuse, New York, which is why Syracuse played in the Carrier Dome for all those years. Did you know that?
Wow, I didn't at all. That is a great piece of sports history, which is really just American history and technological history. That is a beautiful story.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
By the way, today in 1918, the Carpathia, which was the ocean liner that came and rescued all the people out of the water when the Titanic went down.
Oh, wow.
The Carpathia ended up doing time and was sunk by a German U-boat today during World War I in 1918 after picking up the rescued survivors of the Titanic in 1912. So Carpathia, way to get it done. Way to give yourself in service for the greater good.
And the only story better than that is the one told by Robert Shaw in Jaws about the USS Indianapolis going down, right, with the sharks plucking people out of the water. That's the only more terrifying story than the one you're telling.
1,472 men went into the water. 402 came out, but we delivered the bomb.
Unreal. What a scene.
It's the best. By the way, Jaws is celebrating its 50-year anniversary. It's still a monster.
And please do. Yes.
Today in 1955, Walt Disney opened Disneyland in Anaheim, California. There you go. The amusement park to redefine amusement parks forever. Disneyland. Happy birthday today in 1955. You cannot be down there for more than 20 minutes without someone saying, this all used to be orange groves.
It's a tremendous place, though. They say it's the happiest place on earth. And if you have a child or feel like a child at all yourself, go to Disneyland and just let that kind of wash over you. If you grew up with any of those characters in any way, it is. I don't need to sell Disneyland here, but it is. You become a child. The most cynical of people. We could take Ernberg to Disneyland and he would have a good time.
He would. He'd even be like, "Hey, how come Brock and Kyle aren't here to enjoy it today?" Too?
Exactly. Yeah.
Here are if Disneyland is a big moment in recapturing your childhood, we wrap up today in history with two seminal moments in our adulthood. Today in 1984, the national drinking age changed from 18 to 21. So today in 84, can you imagine if your birthday was July 18th, 1984, you're like, tomorrow I turn 18. I'm going to be. No. And they're like, no, you got 3 more years, buddy. You got 3 more years. You missed it by a day.
You can vote. You cannot drink.
Right. You can go to war. You can die for your country. You cannot drink. There you go. National drinking age going from 18 to 21. I'm going to tell you right now, you could lower it to 18. I don't think 18-year-olds even drink anymore. So there's no desire to. It is generation weed gummy out there, and I don't know how much anyone's even drinking. And if you do, get to the Dubliner. They'll take care of you.
Damon, have you ever put one of those Zin packs in your mouth? The little you've seen the synthetic
like
dip
pack
packs.
So the wrong girl.
So the synthetic dip packs is something, right? Okay, and this one is just nicotine. It has no tobacco in it. It is just the nicotine. If you want to spin around and vomit within 5 minutes, I suggest you put one of those in your mouth. It is awful.
I used to dip an awful lot. I used to chew an awful lot. And since El Stroco Loco, I have yet to put another dip back in my mouth. The only cold turkey that I've ever quit in my life was dipping tobacco after my stroke. So I'll be avoiding the Zin pack as much as I'm trying to stay away from all fast food post-stroke in my life.
It is so, I'm so glad we can thank my cousin Joe for introducing the Zin pack to me, but I will not be dipping in my future.
Don't dip. Don't do it, kids. Speaking of a seminal moment, though, reaching adulthood, today in 1987, RoboCop came out. RoboCop. There probably wasn't a more hyped movie of my childhood, of the R-rated movie that every kid wanted to watch. It was RoboCop. It was Predator. It was Commando. Those were the R-rated movies that you begged your dad, let me see this. It's only R-rated because of the violence. It's not going to be much nudity. It's not going to be sexual situations. It's just overly violent. When RoboCop runs through the guy who gets put into the vat of toxic waste acid and he just disintegrates.
That is still a meme in numerous text chains I have. That image is still sent to friends of mine whenever we talk about something exploding or fireworks or anything. It is that guy getting blown up on the windshield of a car that is our favorite to this day.
Peter Weller. Yeah, we haven't seen much of Peter since then.
Nope.
49ers Red Zone says, when I dip, you dip, we dip. Yeah, don't dip anymore, everybody. Don't want to do that.
News.
And there it is. And yes, we're discussing the classics, Gabriel. Where's the Martin Scorsese meme? Cinema.
RoboCop.
RoboCop. I'd buy that for
a dollar.
That's, oh my God, good times.
RoboCop is terrifying. It is. I mean, if you hit RoboCop at an age where you're not quite ready, that movie will resonate and give you nightmares because it is. There are images from that movie that stick with me to this day.
Good times. Good times about RoboCop. You had Kurtwood Smith playing the villain before he reaches dad in That 70s Show status.
Is there a greater range in the history of acting? I don't know that there is.
It's right there. It's got to be right around there. Great range on display throughout today's entire show. We started with 49ers, Alfred Collins. We worked our way right through
Shane Gillis and
the sinking of the Carpathia. I mean, we covered it all, baby. Shane Gillis, WNBA, jokes, woke, everything covered. Bad list, good list, who gets credit for what. It was all discussed today, and that's because Sammy stopped on by. It's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so very much.
I love this moment. Favorite part of my week without question.
Thank you. Always good. I love the Sammy shows. We do too, Joe. We absolutely do. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. And please do remember that sports don't build character. They reveal it. And like that, they're gone.